Malin was sitting on the benches outside the Hook and Hatchet Tavern. His new spell book sat on the table in front of him, large, thick, and heavy. It even smelled new. One day it'd be worn and battered and filled with esoteric writings. How that would happen, he had no idea. But it had to happen. He had borrowed 100 gold pieces to pay for the book from his parents' savings. He needed to pay them back before they found out, and his parents weren't rich. There were 2 spells in his book, read magic and sleep. His brain was itching for more. The more intricate and difficult the better. He didn't want to be a magic user. He had to be one. Reading the book in public was an act of youthful defiance. Spell casting in Threshold is illegal, but Malin wasn't casting. He was a reading, so there. On the next bench was Ben. Bad Ben, all the kids called him. He was large, overweight, dirty, and well past his prime. It was midday and he was already on his way to getting drunk for the evening. In the meantime, he would make bitter comments at anyone who annoyed him. "Is that your spell book?" he asked Malin, with a sardonic stress on spell book. Malin didn't respond. "Going dungeon crawling like an insect? Or are you off to some highfalutin magic college?" Malin closed his book. Then he saw a figure coming through the city gates. He was a tall man in armour, and he was carrying something heavy. He was stumbling like his strength was about to give up. Malin stood up. He saw the burden being carried was the body of a young woman. Ben also stood up. The man eventually fell to his knees. Malin and Ben and 2 town guards ran up to him. He was on all fours, and the young woman lay sprawled beside him. She looked asleep, and, Malin thought, at peace. She was dead. "Alina, from the temple," stated Ben. He looked confused and flustered, like he was trying to remember something important. "We need to get her there quick. I'll take her body, you carry her legs," he ordered Malin. This was an utter transformation in the filthy drunken slob. The stranger got to his feet. "Thank you," he said, helping Malin. All 3 of them carried the slain cleric along the road, into town and to the temple. By the time they got there, a small crowd had joined them. Everyone knew Alina. There was much crying and cursing. Malin felt a small, selfish satisfaction that he was playing a recognisable role in what was going to become important news about town. 2 men came out of the temple. They didn't cry and wail. Rather, they got to work in getting the poor cleric's body inside. Malin recognised the temple elder, but he hadn't seen the other man before. He had a beaten-up, dishevelled look and a grim expression. Many clerics visited the temple, usually as pilgrims. Alina was laid on a cold stone table in a small chapel of rest. The man who carried her there was taken away for food and rest. "She was trying to do good in the world," sighed the elder. "A tragedy." "She needs to be avenged," said the grim cleric. "No," the elder said sharply. "There is evil afoot. It needs to be destroyed, but we do not do it for vengeance." "Then I'll do it as a job," said the cleric. "Then you'll die," said Ben, speaking for the first time. "Whoever killed her could kill you. You're a novice, aren't you?" The cleric just stared back at Ben. Ben didn't seem to care. "Meet us outside the Hook and Hatchet Tavern mid-afternoon," he went on. "We'll sort this out together." The cleric looked at the hefty, grizzly, slightly inebriated man in front of him. "If you want," he said sceptically. "Meet us?" Malin asked, catching up in the conversation. Ben turned to him. "You want to practice your magic? Let's see what you can do. Come on." And so Malin found himself running after Ben, wondering what happened to the bourge, gross drunk that everyone knew and wanted to go away. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To my house," replied Ben. "I need to get my stuff." "My spellbook," Malin wailed. They made a detour to the hatchet, where Malin's spellbook was lying untouched where he left it. Ben's house was larger than the hovel Malin had imagined. It was in a nicer part of town too. Inside was dark and gloomy. There was plenty of fine, sturdy furniture, but it was all covered in dust, bought and never used. The only exception was a large oak chair with a high back. It sat facing the fireplace. Its seat had been well polished and worn over the years. Ben strode over to a chest, opened it, and took out a suit of armour. He put it on the breastplate. It stuck out at an absurd angle over his stomach. The straps that held it together were too short, and Ben had added string to them. He topped it off with a helmet. Lastly, he drew from the chest, with great pride, a round shield. It was well polished. Ben held it up like a mirror. "Let's see how I look." "That's something," said Malin, still confounded there was another Ben that no one knew of. "Are you laughing at me?" The old bitter Ben quickly returned. "No," Malin protested. "You think I'm a sentimental simpleton?" Ben slowly took his helmet off. "I've never worn this sober," he said. He slammed the lid of the chest shut. Malin noticed it was the only other piece of furniture not covered in dust. "One poor fallen damsel, and I lose the run of myself," Ben sighed. "You go on without me. I won't be much help." "We can help each other," said Malin, "and also You promised? I'm going to look an idiot walking through town in this lot, said Ben. He thought for a moment. I'll put it in a sack and carry it. Soon Malin found himself trailing after the boorish Ben on the way to meet this cleric outside the Hook and Hatchet. Sure enough, the cleric was leaning against the tavern. When he saw the other two coming in the distance, he peeled himself off the wall and sauntered towards the road. When they met, Ben stuck out a dirty hand and introduced himself. Ben. He tilted his head towards the mage. This is Malin, said Malin. Donard, replied the cleric, but he didn't offer his hand. What's in the sack? Ah, said Ben, this. He took out his armour and, with the help of Malin, put it on. Donard stared at the overweight junkyard that stood in front of him. Then he turned to the skinny youth standing beside him. What are you here for? I can help with magic, said Malin. He turned his body round to show his massive spellbook hanging in a satchel over his shoulder. Donard just stared into the distance for a moment and said nothing. Then he said, the warrior who brought Alina in gave directions to some nearby caves. It's the home of a known outlaw, Bargle. Nasty piece of work. He looked at Malin. He's a magic user too. And so they set off. Hello, and after several introductions, welcome to some actual gameplay. I have my player's manual here, and I'll be playing through the small solo adventure. Inside it, I've also marked this out already on my paper to help speed things along. I have this, which I extracted from the master rule set, and this is the weapons mastery system. It doesn't really kick in until level 3, but it does give some extra choices in weapons. It gives quarterstaffs to mages, and if you played a lot of Baldur's Gate and the Icewind Dale computer games, quarterstaffs and mages seem to go together, so I have given Malin a quarterstaff. Right. I have my polyhedral dice. I haven't owned a set of these in decades, and I bought them especially for this. They come in such a variety today. Some are quite plain, very clear, and some are very ornate, but difficult to read. I think these are a good happy medium. They have a nice sort of metallic marbling through them, but I also think the numbers are nice and clear. I've got orange and green, good contrasting colours. I'm going to use orange for my team and green for the bad guys. I have these coloured dice here, and in the corner of my character sheets I have a colour. Each dice corresponds to a character, so if we have to make a group decision, I can roll these dice to see who thinks what. I have these little sheets here. If I were to have one quibble with the manuals, it's that the tables inside are all over the place. So I scanned them in, gathered them together, and have them all in on these two little sheets, which should be handy. Because I'm learning, I will be referring to these a lot. I don't think there's much else to say, so let's get on. Alright, so we're starting here. We're after Bargle, and we've been given directions to this cave system here, and we go in, and we're told we're in a 50-foot room, and there's a statue in the middle. The statue doesn't seem to have anything magical about it, but we're given 3 options: to stop and listen, search the room, or go down a corridor. And since it's, I think, better to use your ears than to stick your nose into things, we'll stop and listen, and that's 42. We hear squeaking noises to the east. Well, that sounds like rats to me. Giant rats with big teeth. We'll go back to 1. Search the room is the next option. Sensible thing to do. 57. We find a scrap of paper in a small niche in one wall. Somebody must have left it there, I think, on their way out of this dungeon, thinking it was too much for them. And it says rats to the east, we've got that right. Goblins to the north, beware to the west. We find nothing else. Or we can add more map to the room here. We find nothing more, so we go back to 1. Okay, third option is go down a corridor. 8. Do we want to go north, south, east or west? Well, south takes us outside. And if we go to 2, it confirms that. Go east, go north, or go west. West is beware, and north we think they're goblins, and the east is rats. Now, rats seem the more sensible thing to take on, but I think Donard would probably want to go for the goblins. You know, as in rats themselves aren't necessarily evil. So we'll take a dice each. We'll take blue, orange and red. This is the more obvious one, so we'll do a 1 to 4 for east and a 5 to 6 for north. And everybody decides to go east. So we read 79. We haven't been into this part of the dungeon before, and we have both read a clue and listened for noise, so we read 59. As you approach the room, you hear more squeaks, and you wisely shutter your lantern, leaving only a dim reddish glow. You peek into the room. You see 3 giant rats scurrying around, and some scattered treasure nearby. Well, treasure is always nice. Do you want to go back? Nope. Talk to them? No, we don't speak rat. Try to scare them or attack. I think scaring them sounds sensible. You decide to scare the rats, and you leap out screaming, waving your sword in your light. One of the rats runs off north, but the other 2 attack you. Read 83. We're having a battle with the giant rats. Entry map looks like this one here. We've done that. Giant rats. Now this here little adventure gives you all you need. What the rats need, what their hit points are to each, much damage they do, and what we need to hit the rats. These stats were designed for the solo hero who we met carrying Alina back into town. His stats also match Ben's, but Donard's are 1 worse, so the rats only need a 16 to hit him, and he needs an 11 to hit the rats. Right, now the order of combat, we're told. Now, first in line for the order of combat is intentions. Well, we're told the rats will fight us. We're going to fight the rats. Initiative. Each side rolls 1d6. I'm going to use these little tutorial adventures to really drill this into me. And we both get a 1. This is mutual initiative, which means both sides attack together, and even if you kill your opponent, they still get their death blow in. They have a chance to hit you. Then underneath that we have actions. We have morale, movement, missile, magic, and melee. And there is an easy way to remember that order. Is you take the first letter of each, and you get M, 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 and M. And that spells So, if you remember that, that should help you get your order of events correct. Right, let's throw for the rats. They need a 17 to hit Ben, and the 1 rat on Ben misses. The rat on Donard only needs a 16. It misses. Donard is wielding his mace. He needs an 11 and misses. And Ben just needs a 10. And he hits, and he completely turns that rat into mush. Round 2. And we win initiative. So everybody is onto this one poor little rat. We'll do Donard first. He completely misses. We'll do Ben. And he hits. He does 2 plus 2 damage, 4. That's the second rat dead. If you kill all the rats, read 78. You have won the battle with the giant rats. Huzzah! Searching the room, you find 100 copper pieces and 100 silver pieces scattered in the messy rat lair, and you put them into the sacks you're carrying. Right, I'll mark that down. But in future, I think we're going to be ditching copper pieces. To begin with, we kind of need the money. I mean, they're a penny, and there'll come a time when carrying them is more trouble than their value. So we're going to go north or west. Let's continue north. The corridor goes 30 feet, and there's a side passage to the west, and it continues another 30 feet north. Right, and it opens into a strange room. Read 49. You may go in and investigate the strange room, or go north or south. We're going to go in. Read 22. If you have been into this room before, we haven't. You enter the strange room to investigate. The room is empty and clean, and the only feature is an orange mouth on the far wall, about 8 feet long. Well, if you're going to have only one feature, it might as well be a giant mouth. You search the room, listening and looking carefully, but you find nothing except a big giant mouth. Suddenly you're about to leave. The lips of the giant mouth move, and in a big booming bass voice it says, "Surprise! You are here for double or nothing. Ready or not, here we go. OTTFFSS. What's next in line? If you solve this riddle, your treasure will double." Good. If you fail, it will all disappear. No chance of that. What is your answer? I like these little riddles. OTTFF. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What's next is E for 8. Think about it and then read 82. If you guess the answer correctly, you may double the amount of treasure. If not, it all disappears. The answer is E. Yes. Read 24. You suddenly feel different, either more or less weighted down, depending on your answer. We feel heavier and we double our treasure. Come back again sometime, the mouth laughs. The invisible barrier is gone and you can leave the room. Read 40. From here, do you want to go north or south? We'll go north. Read 31. You go north from the strange room if you've already been through here. Read 7. If not, read 8. We haven't. Number 8. After the turn, the corridor goes 50 feet west and it opens into a room. Right, we're being told to add this. And read 54. The room looks like entry 54, which is this little bit here. And we have heard goblins. Did you find any clues? We did. Read 19. You think there are goblins up ahead, so you keep your lantern shuttered and sneak up to peek into the room. Shuttering your lantern is a good thing to do, and it's something I'm going to have to remember to do when I'm not reading hints like this in little solo adventures. The player's manual tells you that lanterns are expensive, but they last a long time, and you have the advantage of shuttering them, which means you can move around in low light. Torches are much cheaper, but they have the disadvantage that they're difficult to extinguish. This is something that if I were just playing as a player and somebody else was DMing, I would probably remember more often. Well, we're not going to go back and we're not going to talk to them. We're going to attack. That's a sensible thing to do. For a start, Donard wants to kill them, and Ben realises they have an advantage and it'd be foolish to waste it. You leap out and attack the goblins. You get 2 free swings before they get their swords out. Read 85 and run the battle normally after taking your 2 free swings. You're fighting 2 goblins. Remember to make 2 rolls for the monsters. Each one gets a swing after you make yours. Right. Okay, let's do our surprise attacks. Ben, he needs an 11 and he misses. Donard needs a 12 and he misses. Right, let's normal round of initiative. And again, we have mutual initiative. Let's do the goblins. They do 1d6 each, but they need a 17 to hit Ben, and they get a 20, so they hit him. They only need a 16 to hit Donald. Whoops. And that one throws a 1. That's a miss. You don't get critical hits or critical misses in this game. You just get all misses or all hits for 1s or 20s. Right, now it's our turn. We'll do Donald. And he hits. He just needs a 12. He does 3 plus 1 damage. And they have 5 HP, so that one's still alive and kicking. And Ben misses. Okay. Malin, by the way, is holding the lamp. That's his job as the mage. Next round. And we win initiative. They're actually in a position to one-shot Ben. They can. Ben hits, does 3 plus 2 damage, 5, takes out. No, that's Donald. He throws 1d6. He takes out his goblin. Next up is Ben. And he does a 19 to hit. 3 plus 2 is 5. He takes out his goblin. We have won the battle with the goblins. Read 75. You have defeated the pair of goblins, but before you can look around the room, you hear noises from the north. 3 more goblins are coming down the corridor. They have their swords out and look angry. Do you want to run away? No. Talk? No. Fight? Yes. Read 87. You're fighting 3 goblins. Right. I'm not going to do surprise since they came in shouting. So let's do initiative. And we win initiative. Right. First up, we're not going to do morale, movement, missile. First up is magic. And Malin is going to cast his one and only sleep spell. So 2d8 to see how many die or fall asleep. That's 8 hit dice. They have 1 each. So all 3 fall asleep. Well, that stopped them in their tracks. So it's just up to the fighters to go around these sleeping goblins and kill them. Read 65. 65. You have won the great goblin fight. Congratulations. It was a tough battle for one lonely fighter. Well, 3. Don't forget that you started the adventure with a potion of healing. Didn't realise that. Which can cure all your damage if you haven't used it. Okay, that's a bit of a cheat, but I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to give it to Ben. Potion of healing. Curing all your wounds is a bit much. They do 1d6 plus 1. Searching the area, you find 100 silver pieces and 50 gold pieces in the sacks the goblins were carrying. Very nice. Their swords look rusty and worthless. Do you want to go west, go north, or go east? Well, west and east will take us back to where we've been, so the only other option is north, and we'll do that next time. So that was about 20 minutes of gameplay, and we covered this small section of dungeon. And when I look at the stack of modules that I have to get through, I'm going to be at this for some time, but I don't care because I'm actually really enjoyed that. Right, well, I'll see you next time and we'll clear out the rest of this little cave and maybe meet some more of our party.